Hello for the 19th Sunday in Ordinary Time. I don't have a homily this weekend, but I did read the first reading from Sunday's Gospel, and it's all about Elijah and a broom tree. And I'd like to just I found it interesting. What in God's name is a broom tree? And it has something to do with these recent readings as far as bread, and Jesus is the living bread from heaven. What goes something like this? It's all about Elijah. And I did a little research, and it's something like this. The story of Elijah is told in 1 Kings. Okay. The northern kingdom in Israel had 8 kings in its first 58 years as a nation, and this story about the great prophet Elijah occurred during the reign of King Ahab, which was around 850 BC. The king Ahab married Jezebel, you might ring clear, Jezebel, daughter of King of Sidon, who worshipped a foreign god, Baal. So Ahab, for his wife, built a temple to Baal and consecrated priests to serve Baal. Well, Elijah, Yahweh's prophet, had an encounter with the king, King Ahab, and he challenged the king and all the prophets of Baal to a contest whose God is the real God, Baal or Yahweh. And so this is what happened. They met, all the prophets, some 450 Baal prophets, and the one prophet, Elijah, met on Mount Carmel. And they were to make a sacrifice and put it on the altar and then call to their God to light the fire. And so what happened? Many of the Israelites were there to watch also. Well, Baal's prophets, 450, placed a cut-up bowl on an altar of wood and dedicated it to Baal. And then all the prophets called to Baal to ignite the sacrifice. Despite entreating Baal from morning into evening and slashing themselves, the sacrifice to Baal did not catch fire. Elijah now, he prepared God's altar on Mount Carmel, which had fallen apart and disused, etc. and so forth. He arranged wood on the altar. He cut up a bowl into pieces, placed the pieces of the bowl on the altar, and then he doused with much water over the bowl and the altar, and he prayed, naming God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Israel. And he asked God to light the fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. And the people, so that the people would know that he did these things as God's direction, to let the people know that God, the Lord, God, was the only God. Immediately, fire consumed Elijah's sacrifice. The people fell prostrate and cried, "The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God!" Elijah commanded the people to seize Baal's prophets, and they were taken to Kishon Valley and slaughtered. Well, okay, this is all about what happened before the first reading here this morning. When King Ahab reported what had happened to Queen Jezebel, she sent a messenger to Elijah that she would have him killed by this time tomorrow. He had 24 hours. Instead of a day of triumph for Elijah, it became a day of terror. He fled to Samaria and ran over 100 miles to an area south of Beersheba in Judah. And then, the reading this morning, Elijah came to a broom tree, sat down under it, and prayed that he would die. Elijah was completely disheartened, and finally, he falls asleep under the broom tree. Well, he wakes up. What's a broom tree? Here's what I found out. The internet, of course. In biblical Israel, the white broom tree was used for kindling and cooking in stoves, and coals were made from its roots, trunk, and so forth. The broom tree that Elijah rested under in the Negev was known as the white broom and the white weeping broom tree. The broom tree is thought to be indigenous to the Middle East. In Israel, it is widespread in deserts, including extreme deserts. Although called a tree, it is a shrub with a broad canopy. In Israel, the white broom tree is most beautiful between January and January to April. Well, the thing is, Elijah falls asleep a second time. It's all in the reading there. You can read that. And then he finds this jug of water and a earth cake, and he's refreshed, and he's given new insight or new energy. And as it says there, he gets up and he walked 40 days and 40 nights to the mountain of God, Horeb. Well, this is all having to do with, we've been talking about bread of life and earth cakes and 5 barley loaves and 2 fish and manna in the desert and so forth. And in the gospel then, Jesus said, I am the bread of life. If you want sustenance, if you want refreshment, if you want energy to go on life's journey, you got to eat my body and drink my blood. And so the church goes back to Elijah the prophet, who got sustenance under a broom tree. Just as the Jewish people around 1250 BC or whatever were in the desert, they got sustenance, they got refreshment with quail in the evening and manna in the morning. Or they got it from water in the desert when Moses struck the rock. Well, ultimately, Jesus comes and he doesn't just give sustenance to one prophet or to 5,000 people 2 weeks ago, as it said they fed them, but he gives sustenance and refreshments and life to everybody, all people, all times. All of these are sort of preparations so that we might realize and enjoy the Jesus who came for all, who saved all, and will bring us to his heavenly kingdom, will bring us to his Father. It's not a homily, but I just got interested in that poor broom tree. What was it? What's this all about? Anyway, see you next week with a homily. Have a good day.